Hi, Kelly.
Hi. Hi, Jack.
Kelly, so it says up at the top of my screen, you are in a practice session, and to start the webinar, can we click that or are we not supposed to?
Yeah, no, I started
Oh,
it
okay, cool.
usually about 5 minutes before the meeting.
Oh, gotcha. Because I think that we might have not done it at the last meeting, and Elizabeth was saying she was thinking that was why there was some trouble having someone come in or not. I'm not sure. So I just wanted to check, but we're all good.
Oh, okay. I didn't know anybody was having trouble with that. Okay, we'll watch it this time and see what happens, huh?
Yeah, I bet it'll be fine.
Okay. God, I have a friend that's down in Texas and he just went to Arizona. It's 106 degrees and his air conditioning went out of his truck. Yeah.
Oh no, that's so bad.
Yeah. I'm like, oh my God, what do you do?
Move, go somewhere else. I don't know.
Drive fast.
Yeah. I would not
Get
stay
out
in
of
that
there.
house. Yeah.
God,
Oh my gosh, that's funny.
I know it. I'm like, oh, it's supposed to be like 90 on Monday here.
Yeah, I think I saw 94 or something. It's gonna be crazy.
Oh, it's freezing. Isn't that nuts? Here it was like had the heat on here just a couple of days ago.
Well, I know, and tomorrow's gonna be like 65 or something. I mean, it's like pick a lane.
You're right. Yeah, that's hard on us. We can't live like this.
Yeah.
I hope everybody got the link. I went into Zoom and I pushed the information back out again.
Yeah, I hope they did too. I sent the one that's on the calendar out to everyone, which I think should work.
Mm.
Jennifer was just in the attendee space, but hi, Jennifer. You made it through. Oh, you're muted.
Done. I can hear you all very well.
Wonderful. That's a really beautiful blouse, Jennifer.
Oh, thank you.
Very pretty color.
Thank you.
Hi, Ray. There you are. Hi, Ray. I got your message, your voicemail, and I'll call you back tomorrow. I'm hoping to have some more information for you tomorrow. So.
You're muted, Ray.
You're muted. He was yelling at me.
Yeah, I was. I want to know what he said.
No, there's 3 different unmute places.
Oh.
2 of them don't work.
Oh.
Oh, that's funny.
2 of them are in my window and neither one of them would respond. So down, down in the corner of the console, I hit that one. That worked.
That worked.
Yeah. So Colleen, I did hear you. Yep.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. I'll get back to you tomorrow. Yeah, hopefully I'll have some more information, but I'm glad that we're moving forward.
Yeah. Actually, PJ and I went out today and put out our sandwich board. So we're hoping that the postcard shows up pretty soon too. So
Awesome.
yeah. Yeah. So we're all on the hook now.
Yep.
Okay. Hey, Ray, while we're talking about that, do you, we don't need a permit for Whitaker Park, right? Have you,
Ooh, I don't know.
I tried to get a hold of Parks and Rec today and I didn't get an answer back, but I'll call them again in the morning and find out for sure. But there's no pavilion there, right?
Correct.
Okay, so there's no
Yeah.
permit then.
Yeah. I
Only if there's a
didn't.
pavilion.
Yeah. We've never done one before. So, but
Okay.
it's always my approach is, ask for forgiveness.
Seems to work every time.
Yeah. So, yeah. And probably if we said we were going to have a kegger there, they would might want us to get a permit, but
Yeah.
that's not in planned anyway.
Not a bad idea.
No. We won't go there.
No, we can't do that.
Awesome. We're getting some more folks in.
Hi, Ben.
Lena, everybody else.
Hi. I love the keyboards in the background. Should always start your presentations with a tune or something.
The Seinfeld theme music.
Yeah. I would love it. All right. Let's see. So we have 6 folks. Such a beautiful day out that I'm not sure if we're gonna get quorum today. But I think we can get started. If that's okay with you, Kelly.
Mm-hmm. You bet.
All right. Okay, so we'll call the June Community Forum to order, and we'll start with our roll call. And I'll keep watching the panelists list because I know some folks came through the attendees, so I can promote them. But for now, we'll get going. So Captain John Mullen. Farview's Patty Canyon.
Ray Ayton here.
Franklin of the Fort. Grant Creek.
Portland alert.
Heart of Missoula. I see Leah. Okay. Lewis and Clark. Lower Rattlesnake. Miller Creek.
Present.
Moose Can Gully, South 39th.
Here,
Our last time with Carol too.
Carol Garlington, yes.
North side, west side.
Gretchen here.
Awesome. Welcome, Gretchen. River Road. Riverfront. Rose Park. Southgate Triangle. Two Rivers. University District.
Jennifer Copley.
And Upper Rattlesnake. All right. So we have 7 neighborhoods today. So no quorum. Maybe later in the meeting, but at this moment, we're not gonna approve the minutes. So we will go to public comment on non-agenda items from the audience. It does not look like we have anyone at the moment. So then we're going to move to our presentation. So we have Ben Weiss here to talk a little bit about the traffic management program. And as you saw on the agenda, he thought up some questions to kind of start some dialogue after his presentations. And hopefully we can have a really robust conversation. So Ben, the floor is yours, and I'll let you share the screen.
Okay, thanks. It'll take me a second. I guess I thought there'd be more business to attend to before I got going. So give me just a second here. What's neat about my presentation, I'm tempted to do air quotes, is that nearly all of it is going to be from the city's website. So is everybody able to see my screen here?
Yes.
Okay, so this is the homepage of the Neighborhood Traffic Management Program. This can be found on engagemissoula.com. And that is a website where a lot of city projects land, especially when we want citizen not just input, but like help with the project. So if you just go to the homepage for Engage Missoula, you can see some of the most recent stuff, but you'd click on city initiated projects and then scroll down neighborhood traffic management. So I'm going to briefly go over kind of the history of this program and what where we're at now and what we're trying to do, talk about a couple of projects that we have in store for this year. But I really want to just open it up and have a conversation with you all about what you're seeing in your neighborhood, and hopefully this plants some seeds about how you might be able to utilize this program, take this back to your neighborhood leadership teams, and figure out if there's some good candidate streets in your neighborhood that we might be able to address. So for years and years, we've had a traffic calming program dating back to probably the late 90s or early 2000s. And it worked really well for a couple neighborhoods. And as a result, we have those beautifully landscaped traffic circles in the University District. There's some in the Riverfront neighborhood. And that's about it. And what we found is that other neighborhoods didn't necessarily have the time or resources to go through. It was a very intensive process from the citizen perspective. And it was also expensive. Ultimately, once traffic calming solutions were landed on, they were paid for through an additional tax called a special improvement district on adjacent property owners. And so there had been kind of, was there a question?
I don't think so. I think someone was just unmuted. So
Okay.
everyone can make sure to mute.
So there had been some growing calls for improvement to that program over the years, and we sort of batted some ideas around, but never really landed on a way to try and make that more equitable and more engaging everywhere, and for a variety of reasons. But So we had heard from council like, hey, we want you to revamp the traffic calming program. We had also heard from council back in I guess 2019 now, 2019, 2020, that they had heard of some other communities that had reduced speed limits kind of blanketly across the city. There are a lot of communities out there that have signs when you get off the freeway that say, unless otherwise posted, the speed is 20 miles an hour in this community or something like that. And so they wanted us to look into, council asked us to look into doing something similar in Missoula. Obviously, we're not lowering reserve to 20 miles an hour or something like that, but neighborhood streets, is there a way that we can do that? And so we looked into it. We even wrote a white paper identifying, looking at the other communities that did it and what the benefits are. And we were getting ready to bring that back to council, and then ran it by the attorneys and found out that we're actually not allowed to do that by state law. And so we then brought what we had to council and said, okay, what do you want us to do with this? And they said, well, this sounds like a great way to great opportunity to revamp your traffic calming program as well, or our traffic calming program. So you can see that research. We have this this document here. It'll begin downloading, but this is the research paper that we wrote, published it in April of last year. But basically, and it draws heavily on a lot of other research from the National Association of City Transportation Professionals. But basically, pedestrian fatalities are on the rise in the United States, and the speed is directly correlated to that at 23 miles per hour, 10% of people hit by a car that will die, and at 50 miles an hour, 3/4 of people will die. And so it's a kind of exponential curve with that. This is another way to show it. At about 20 miles an hour, it's about 10%. At 30 miles an hour, about 40%, 40 miles an hour, it's 80%. So it really jumps up. So the slower we can drive on our streets that are supposed to be neighborhood streets, the safer they are for everybody. So we looked at what can we do about speeding? Well, one of the things that council asked us to do is lower the posted speed limits. And while here's a list of communities that have all lowered them on a blanket wide method, we're not able to do that. Roadway design is a way to decrease speed limits or decrease speeding. And we certainly employ kind of best practice tactics when we construct new streets, like out west, Captain John Mullen and places where new streets are being built. We try to follow those practices, but we have a lot of existing roadways that maybe don't follow those. So what do we do about those? Retrofitting can be really expensive. Increased enforcement is not super. It really only helps with the one person that gets pulled over, and at the moment that they get pulled over, it's not something that we can do everywhere in town. For a long time, we only had 2.5 traffic cops for the entire city. That number's up to 4.5 now, but that's still, people can't be everywhere at once, especially not on low volume streets. And so that is not, that's not the best tool. Education and encouragement. Sure, we can get the word out that we want people to drive slower, and Kalina and Kelly might even have some drive like your kids live here signs. They did Office of Neighborhoods, try to do some promotion. There's 20 is plenty is another slogan that we like to use. But again, these campaigns are kind of only as good as the cohesion of the neighborhood in which they're working and how they can be addressed. Things like public service announcements. Missoula in Motion puts out safety information and driver encouragement through Facebook and other avenues. Neighborhood petitions or speed pledges are things that can be done. We haven't had the resources to try and initiate those, but they can really only be successful when they're maintained long-term and when they're initiated alongside engineering and enforcement strategies. And so what we are choosing is, or what the neighborhood traffic management program is essentially a comprehensive approach that uses all of the above. And so what happens is we field through this, we field requests for traffic calming or concerns about speeding or cut through traffic or crashes in a neighborhood. And then we, did I include it in here? Nope. I'm going to move this, come back here. We have, this will show kind of what happens. We field someone will call or email and let us know the issue that they're seeing. We'll identify, is this project on a local street, and is it potentially solvable through the neighborhood traffic management program? If the answer is no to that, if it's on a busier street or it's something that is the scope is just too big for what this program can do, then we'll add it for consideration in our like major construction projects list. But then we'll look and say, is it a speed complaint or is it a safety and volume complaint? We'll collect baseline data. We will look at, we have some thresholds for whether or not the project is, there's legs to it. We will try and recommend education and enforcement. We'll reassess. We'll bring it to our safety team that includes engineers, planners, maintenance folks, occasionally emergency services. And then we will develop a plan for traffic calming and appropriate intervention. We will analyze the plan, see how we'll kind of take stock of all the plans that we have, all of the requests that we've gotten, and prioritize them for implementation. And then we'll implement them and kind of engage the public as necessary. Some projects can happen as part of routine maintenance. Some are standalone projects. Some have some level of controversy involved, and some are really straightforward and everyone is super excited about them. Essentially, the other information we have on this page, we have links to some of our planning documents that help guide the types of things that we want to see in long term, the vision long term. We have traffic management tools. This is a list of kind of inspiration for folks, for public and for city officials to think about the types of tools we have available to us. Stop and yield signs. We explain what they are, what the common application is, what the pros and cons are, a general cost, kind of like a Yelp review between $1 and $3 signs, depending on how expensive they are. We have traffic circles. And one of the things the neighborhood traffic management program is doing is we're utilizing these lighter, quicker, cheaper techniques to build these. So this circle like this is just as effective as the ones in the university district. And this costs in the neighborhood of $800 to $1,000, whereas a fully curbed and planted circle these days is costing about $20,000 per circle. And so this fits within our existing budgets, no additional cost to adjacent property owners, whereas the other circles require that SID process, which is costly to adjacent property owners. It's takes staff time to manage, and is overall, like, doing this approach allows us to respond a lot quicker. It also allows us to make adjustments if needed. If something isn't working, we work with fire to make sure that they can get through these just fine. But if for some reason it doesn't, we can adjust it really easily. We can go out and move a delineator or something and restripe it a little bit. It's very easy to adjust. You have different types of circular intersections besides the neighborhood traffic circles. On slightly busier streets, we might entertain a urban hybrid mini roundabout. This is at the intersection of Wyoming and California in the River Road neighborhood. This is a way to acknowledge that Wyoming is a new through street while also not encouraging or facilitating just flying through this intersection and the neighborhood. Curb extensions or bulb outs. This was showing one that's fully constructed, but we've done these out of our quick build techniques, also using paint and delineators. Third and Myrtle is a recent by Bernice's, and Meadow Sweet Herbs is a recent installation that was done that way. A chicane is kind of realigning the roadway to force drivers to have to jog a little bit as they go down the street. Again, this reduces the tunnel vision effect, and when you have to pay attention, you're generally going slower and you're more cautious. Similarly, a pinch point mid-block might restrict the feeling of the street being wide open and create some traffic calming effects. Diverters are kind of a last resort at this point. We like our grid system and like the flexibility that it allows for diverting traffic around a crash or construction site, or allowing emergency services, multiple access points to neighborhoods, that sort of thing. But a lot of cities have used these successfully to continue to facilitate bicycle and pedestrian traffic through an intersection while making vehicles making these local streets not through streets for vehicles. Channelizing access control. This is something that we've done a lot in I guess it's technically Franklin to the Fort. It's where Franklin to the Fort meets the Southgate Triangle, right on the west side of Trempers. When Brook South Russell was redesigned, a lot of those streets, to avoid them being cut through, we made them right in, right out, by putting these little pork chops in. You can add refuge islands. There's a great crossing similar to this at Broadway and Burton in the West Side neighborhood to access the Riverfront Trail system. Speed humps or tables. This is showing a full curb to curb, but we last year did a great installation just using asphalt that went part of the way across the street on Missoula Ave in the Rattlesnake neighborhood. And so we're experimenting with different ways of building these and seeing good success there. Even just a marked crosswalk, if it's an appropriate place and can facilitate better awareness, then that's something that we'll look at. There's pros and cons to marked crosswalks. Every intersection, quick aside here, every intersection is a crosswalk by state law, and drivers are required to yield to pedestrians at every intersection, whether or not it's painted. And there are places, there's guidance actually that show that marking crosswalks can actually make the crossing less safe. And so we want to be careful. We don't just put them everywhere from a resource perspective, and because we want to make sure that we're doing something to actually enhance the situation. Raising a crosswalk is another way to really enhance safety. There are a couple of these around town. There's one in Trempers that is going to be raised even further. There's one behind Hellgate High School on Gerald. There is one, another in the University District. The whole intersection of University and Arthur was raised. I think it's arguable it might not have been raised enough to be fully effective. And then the art park on Pine Street in the heart of Missoula is also raised. Again, that has a traffic calming intent, as well as kind of unifying the two sides of the street. In-lane pedestrian signs, we were a little reluctant to use these, but we do think that they have their place. One of the reasons we're reluctant is we need to pull them in the wintertime for plowing operations, but a place that you might see these is on Spruce and McCormick by St. Pat's in the West Side neighborhood. Rapid flashing beacons. These are great at getting attention. These are a user activated push button feature that at high pedestrian crosswalks where there's low vehicle yield rates, that's kind of the best application of these. We're seeing these more and more. Speed trailers or variable feedback message signs that tell you how fast you're going certainly can be effective, but they really need to be deployed in the right place. They have diminishing effect over time. If they're not paired with enforcement, people start to ignore them pretty quickly, including high school kids, especially. You can see an increase in speeds because they try and set new records for how fast they go. So really the best application is on hills, in areas where a speed limit changes. So think maybe the upper Rattlesnake, Duncan to Greeno, something like that. Or there's one on Patty Creek or Patty Canyon, where it goes from county to city and the speed limit goes from 35 to 25. There's one right there. That one has been really effective. And then places where a large percentage of traffic is not just the locals, that it's cut through traffic that might not realize what the speed limit is. And so that's where, the upper Rattlesnake, especially on that Greeno Duncan side, a lot of that, there are trailheads up there. There's some amount of through traffic or at least visitor traffic, but a lot of a lot of concerns that we hear are from, they know that it's their neighbor that's speeding and they want help with that. So again, these have their place. It's something that we'd consider, but they have their place. Reducing the speed limit is a tool that we have at our disposal. I mentioned that state law doesn't allow us to do it on a blanket level across across the entire city. Instead, it kind of requires a traffic and engineering study of the corridor, and so there are places that we certainly want to look into doing that, but it's not the best tool we have. And then finally, enforcement. Again, it's certainly visible, it's immediate, and it can lead to long-lasting behavior change for the person that gets pulled over. But it's resource intensive. We don't have a lot of officers. We can't guarantee equal application. Anyone who's lived here a while knows the places where you're likely to see an officer waiting to see people. There's it's not necessarily the best use of time and resources. And again, state law, people have said, people make a lot of suggestions. Why don't we just put up speed cameras where on places that we know where they're speeding? That's actually our legislature has not, they made it so that cities can't do that. It's not allowed by state law in our state. Even though it's very effective and in other places, it's something that it's not a tool in our toolkit. So going back to the page, that's kind of you can click on the link here and see what the tools are. It's also up here. Those are tools available. And then we also have this link of what we're calling neighborhood energizers. And this we think of as kind of a deck of playing cards that we want to be inspiring to neighborhoods and citizens. These are kind of softer treatments that you might not think of directly as traffic calming, but what they do is they help build community, which in turn communicates psychologically to drivers that they are driving through a neighborhood where people and dogs and other activities are happening and using the street, and that they should slow down and be conscientious of where they go. So things like a 20's plenty sign or campaign, slow down signage. I call these the green turtles. I know they're supposed to be a kid, but every time I see one, I think they look like a turtle. These, people put these out in their yards. Intersection murals, and we'll get into some of these in a minute, but that's a way to really draw attention to some of those quick build traffic circles. This one is at the intersection of Maurice and Hastings in the University District. Decorating crosswalks. This one takes a little bit of, this needs a little bit more intervention from the city to make sure that a design is, that we're allowed to do it. But again, roadway art, more and more studies are showing that it's very effective at slowing traffic. Murals in the neighborhood help communicate to people that there's something happening here. It's not just that people want to look at the mural itself, but they realize that people are taking pride in the space around them. Even yard sales, people go slower around yard sales, and obviously you're not going to have a yard sale out every day, every hour of every day at your street, but things like that do help calm traffic. This is a picture from Sunday Streets, but again, doing a concert in a neighborhood, having a workspace in a parking spot, using it, putting tables out in a parking spot. This happens on First Fridays downtown. In the summer, Missoula in Motion helps facilitate that through the Downtown Association. Outdoor games, having a basketball tournament. Some of these do require a little bit, you can't just go out and do it necessarily. You'd need a little bit of advanced warning and notice and working with the city, but doing, pop-up activities. Again, there's just a whole bunch here to provide inspiration. Building things, having a whole bunch of bird feeders in one tree. I don't know if they have a lot of trees here, but certainly or a lot of birds in this one location, but it certainly would help draw visual interest. And again, just create this sense of place. The little free libraries, they don't calm traffic in and of themselves, but what they do is they remind you that people walk and they browse the library in this location, and they expect to see people, or you should expect to see people. If you see a little free library, it means that there are people that walk in that neighborhood. We've even seen little free food pantries pop up, especially in the north side, west side. I'm familiar with these, but they I've seen one on Missoula Ave. I think that it is something that we might see more and more of. Just adding seating, even if it's on your grass, on your lawn next to a sidewalk, just providing a place of respite for folks. Recycling or compost bins, homemade bike racks, planter boxes, vertical plant wall. There's actually a really neat one of these. I think it's still there in the Franklin of the Fort neighborhood on Grant Street, maybe at 6th. There's like all of these there's planters on a wall and then blue oil drums filled with plants. It's really nice in the spring and summertime. Just leaving a light on communicates to people that streets are, that the right of way is a place that people traverse. This time of year, it's hard to imagine that people are out in the dark with any regularity, but in October, our commutes are at nighttime. Just when we get out of work, it's still dark. So really bringing light can help bring vibrancy to a neighborhood and that sort of thing. So I'm not going to go through every single one of these, but we have a list of 50 or so. Again, just ideas. Some of them are very small scale, some of them are really big, but ways that people can think about building community that helps calm traffic and helps remind people that our public right of way is for all of the public and not just people in motor vehicles. So if you have ideas for places that need some help calming traffic, you can add ideas here. You can provide questions and comments, add ideas. You see here traffic at Mullen and George Elmer. That's a much bigger scale project than this program is going to handle. For what it's worth, there's going to be a roundabout put in at that intersection as part of the build grant. But things like traffic management at North Ave and Eaton. Eaton Street is getting sidewalks. This is over in the Franklin of the Fort neighborhood, and safety is a big part of that project, and we're looking at the component there. So what happens when we get these requests? Again, we score them. We look at safety, or we look at crash history. We look at speeds and volumes. We look at pedestrian connectivity. Are there sidewalks in the area? Are there pedestrian generators? Are there parks, schools, grocery stores, health facilities, things like that nearby? We look at context. Is this the only street in this neighborhood that gets from point A to point B? An example, Simon's Drive in the Farview's Patty Canyon neighborhood is the only street that connects High Park to Hillview Way. And so that one is used as a cut through. It also doesn't have sidewalks the entire way. And so that might add some consideration for doing something on that street. So we get, these requests and we field them. We have points based on those criteria, and we rank them and score them and then put projects together. And so we've done a handful of what we call these quick build traffic circles like this. Our first pilot projects were on Franklin Street in the Rose Park neighborhood and Maurice in the University District. They were a success. The following year, we did Kemp and Schilling in the Franklin of the Fort neighborhood. We did 3 circles in the Lewis and Clark neighborhood. And we have a couple others planned in the north side. I guess that's all for this year. We've also done quick build bulb outs on Schilling as part of that Kemp Schilling project. We did kind of quick build techniques at 3rd and Myrtle. That one was its own special situation, but it was largely grant funded. But we've done a fair amount of these. We've done speed humps, as I mentioned, on Missoula Ave. We're looking at doing some on Simon's Drive this year and on Norman's Lane in the Farview's Patty Canyon. And we are looking at the next couple places that we're looking at 4th Street, all between Orange and Schilling. So kind of a long run through the Riverfront neighborhood into Franklin of the Fort. We're looking at Garfield in the Franklin of the Fort neighborhood. We're looking at a few streets, Cooley in the north side. We are looking at McDonald in the Southgate Triangle neighborhood. We don't have any actual proposal yet for that one. We are looking at Stevens, I guess that would technically be Lewis and Clark, maybe the south half of Stevens, south of Playfair Park, between Patty Creek and Southwest Higgins. And so, yeah, there's a fair amount of, we can only do a handful of these every year, even with this lower cost and faster way of doing it. It's within the existing budget of the crew that has to sign and stripe all of the streets. Every year they have to put all the turn arrows at the busy intersections, all the crosswalks, all the bike lanes. And so we fit this in when we can, but like I said, it's our way to be to try and be more responsive. What I was hoping to see on this, and I'm not, is a link to the form. There is a form that people can fill out on the city's website, and I'm going to try and find it in full view of you all. So hopefully we can do this. But so how do I report a concern? I want to report a concern, and I want to report a traffic problem. This right now takes us to the city traffic unit or the police traffic unit, but you can fill out, this says an enforcement request. And so this will, I believe this will come both to PD and to my office. And so we will then be back in touch with you to learn if there's more information that we need from this, and then let you know when we might be able to collect data and think about putting a project together. So that was a ton of information. I've been talking for a half hour straight. I guess I want to open up the floor. I did, I kind of tried to seed the conversation by saying, having Kalina send out the message asking, what places do people feel safest in their neighborhood? Where do they feel less safe? And have you noticed any sort of what are the physical things that help contribute to those feelings of safety or unsafety? And so I guess I would leave you with that prompt. I see a couple hands already. So if there are questions about the program, that's great. If you just want to start talking about what you're seeing in your neighborhoods, that's fine too. Again, I want this to be helpful for you all. My goal is to take the comments that I'm hearing here and questions, bring them back to our team, and probably respond back to Kalina. I don't know if I can make it to the next community forum, but certainly we can get back in touch with the neighborhood leadership teams and community forum with follow-up. Okay, with that, Kalina, do you want to moderate
Sure.
discussion? All right.
Yeah. Awesome. Thank you so much, Ben. I think Jack's hand was up first.
Yes, Ben, I've been down in Sacramento, California, visiting her daughter. She lives in a neighborhood that had a lot of speed tables, and they seem to work pretty, even though the speed limit was 25, they kept the speed limit at 25. They had a lot of speed tables, and I saw that to be pretty effective. And then I know I live on Jeff Drive. And of course, Jeff Drive is one of the narrower streets. It's like from back of curb to back of curb is about 30 feet. And so anytime people park on the street, that causes people to slow down. And there's always a car here or there parked on the street. And so those and of course, when they built the street there, you had some bulb outs in the curb for like where they had pedestrian crossings and those type of things. And recently, within the last year, they put in a few stop signs to help reduce the traffic speeds, because we didn't have any of those stop signs. And so now that we have some, seems to have reduced and four-way stops have reduced the speed in our neighborhood. Now I know there was a town that had a school on a major street, and going by the school was 25. And when people exceeded the speed limit, there was an alarm. There was one of those little speed signs telling you, okay, this is your speed, and this is what the speed limit is. And anytime it was over 25 miles an hour through this, there was an alarm that went off. And that really caused people to think about their speed, because now people are watching and they hear that go off and they look and see who's doing this. And so that's kind of an embarrassment situation when you exceeded that 25 to have this alarm go off. Really annoying, but it was effective in a lot of ways.
Very interesting. I'd love to see more info about that. I wonder if that's a tool that we can have. Jack, I have a few questions and comments for you before we go on. One, I'm curious, are you east or west of Alicia Drive on Jeff? Are you closer to Upper Miller Creek, or are you closer to
No.
Uncle Robert and those places?
Yeah, I'm closer to, yeah, I live on, I'm about the third house down on the left from Upper Miller Creek Road. And we walk that area quite a bit, Alicia and Joy Drive and stuff. And notice they put those stop signs on Alicia that and Jeff Drive that help reduce some of the traffic there. Or
Yeah.
speed.
Okay. Yeah. Our hope, our goal with that, the national manual that tells you, that a stop sign needs to be a red octagon that's 2 feet or 30 inches by 30 inches. And, the font of the word stop, it's called the Manual for Uniform Traffic Control Devices. And it's so that when you don't go to Kalispell, they have a purple circle that says halt and you don't know what to do. We want these features to all look the same. That manual is very prescriptive about what you can and can't do with traffic signage. And it
Yeah.
says stop signs shall not be used for speed control. And so we can't say that we are using stop signs for speed control. That being said, we know that you have to slow down when you come to a stop, and so they can be effective. But when we looked at that intersection at Jeff and Alicia, what we were seeing when we talked to the immediate neighbors that were complaining about it, what they were really describing was cut through traffic, and people coming from the 12 plexes on Alex and Jim and Uncle Robert and those places. And they were, instead of going out Joy Drive to Christian to Linda Vista, which is what we think that we wanted to see, they were just kind of making right turns as fast as they could off of Joy onto Alicia onto Jeff and then getting out to Upper Miller Creek. And so what we described those stop signs, that application, as traffic management, because we thought it would be just annoying enough that people will then instead do what the road were constructed to do, which was send them out to Christian Drive, which
Right.
is a wider street and can accommodate more vehicles and was intended to be the through street in that neighborhood.
Yeah, and I'm very familiar with uniform manual and that traffic control devices because I'm an engineer and I work for the Forest Service. And so I'm very familiar with that and the letter size and everything you need for certain speeds. And so,
Okay. Yeah. It's some people are stunned when they hear about, that it makes sense but it's they're surprised that it's that prescriptive,
yes.
Awesome. Thank you, Jack. We'll go to Carol.
Okay, I inquired around my neighborhood about where people were feeling unsafe. And both bicyclists and pedestrians, the first thing out of their mind is 23rd Street. Because it's not wide enough, there's no bicycle lane, there's no sidewalk for most of it. And you can't even effectively go off to the side on the same side of the street. You have to cross back and forth to even find a grassy area to walk on.
Yeah, that's a known conundrum. When I first started in this position, I wrote a federal grant for Safe Routes to School funding to construct those sidewalks from 55th down to Foothills. And the thought was that was 1 year of funding. We were successful. We got, $150,000 or something to do that. And the city ended up having to put in a fair bit more. But the plan was to continue that, apply for subsequent funding through that Safe Routes to School program. At the time, Cold Springs was on Briggs, and we thought Meadow Hill is down the hill too, and we thought, gee, this could be a great project. And then that program was discontinued in 2012 that funding source dried up, and so we have not been able to figure out a way to finish the project down the hill. But it's certainly, we need to figure out something, because if we're not going to be able to construct sidewalks in the near future, what do we do in the meantime? There's bus stops. We know that people, it doesn't, just because there aren't sidewalks doesn't mean that people don't walk there. And so what can we do about
Yeah,
that?
and in the winter, when there's a lot of snow on the sides, then people walk right down, even kids walk right down the street.
Yeah. How familiar, Carol, do you think the neighborhood is with 24th as a kind of alternate route to 23rd? Do you the
Not
trail?
very. I don't think so. Yeah.
I call it 24th, but it's really just a trail that goes all the way from Meadow Hill, just straight up, all the way to 55th.
Actually, yeah, that's where I walk my dog. I won't go down 23rd. I use the trail.
Okay.
I cross and use the trail all the way down to Meadow Hill and up to Perry Park.
Do you think that there's a general awareness that exists? Is it a popular route in the neighborhood?
I do see a lot of people on it, but I don't think it's generally known as a route. I do see a lot of school kids on it.
Okay, I'm going to talk to the Parks Department and see if there are ways that we can think about accentuating that route more than 23rd.
That's a good idea. Yeah.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Carol. Jennifer.
Ben, I really appreciate all the effort and thought that the city is putting into these things. I just wanted to ask you a question. Is there a point at which signage, having a great deal of signage, becomes obstructive of safe driving rather than supportive of safe driving? One of the complaints I hear from folks is there are so many street signs in some places, like the roundabout near Paxson School, for example, that people get utterly confused and one gets so distracted trying to read all the signage that it's hard to keep track of pedestrians. So I wonder if you've heard that concern before. I was struck by your idea of having a city speed limit except for posted areas, because that might clean up some of the problem.
Yeah, that was part of our hope with that. Certainly sign clutter is an issue, even just aesthetically, let alone from a safety perspective. We're really reticent about just putting up another sign, especially another 25-mile-an-hour speed limit sign. There needs to be a real good reason. For one thing, people are, how many times have you slowed down because you saw a speed limit sign and you weren't on the interstate? Oh, well, I see some hands. Okay, that's better than maybe the average, but we really think that they keep the honest people honest, and they are simultaneously in the way and people don't pay attention to them. And so it's a conundrum that they're there and not there at the same time. So we do try and keep track of what signs we can and want to put places. Again, that roundabout at Paxson, that one, we laugh about that one, but we are following that manual for uniform. It specifies you need these signs on an approach to a roundabout. That might have relaxed over time because, that the U.S. has been late adopters to modern roundabouts. New England has kind of the old-fashioned rotary, which they're actually less safe, but a modern roundabout like that one by Paxson School is actually much safer than a signalized intersection or a four-way stop. It's the fewer crashes and much less severe crashes. And so I think that there was a tendency to oversign those when you install a new one, but it's potentially worth looking at pulling some of that signage. But yes, in general, we're really wary of just putting in a sign. We don't think it's going to solve anything. It can contribute to clutter, and it's not a we don't want to make a problem. Another place where we struggle with this is where the Milwaukee Trail in the River Road neighborhood, where the Milwaukee Trail crosses Curtis and Davis Streets. those signs are actually low enough that a person on a bike could potentially hit their head on them. And so, but we balance that with the fact that if we raise them up to highway, to the height that they could be at, they might not be effective. They're forcing people to look up instead of looking down where they should be at the crossing. So sign placement is a big concern, and one that we really want to try and minimize the amount of signs that go in. Good question.
Wonderful. We'll go to Ray.
So Ben, I'm up here in the Farviews Patty Canyon area, and it's great about Simons and about Norman Lane. Really glad to see that that's happening. That's sort of on that side. There's one question I've often had is about Whitaker, which certainly gets, with its steepness, a lot of traffic, probably like what happens out in Linda Vista area too, on the downhill run, just collecting speed. I know if I don't put my vehicle in second gear, I can easily get up to 35 or more going down a hill that's supposed to be 25. So are there limitations on what can be done on Whitaker? Because it's probably an artery street, I think it's called. And I think that, let's start there.
Yeah, great question. It's so there. That brings up a good consideration. We currently divide our city streets into 3 different classifications. There's arterials, collectors, and local streets. And arterials are things like Reserve, Broadway, Third, Higgins, Russell, Brooks. The big streets that carry tens of thousands of cars a day. Those are typically owned and maintained by MDT, even though they're in the heart of the city, the Montana Department of Transportation. So we kind of work alongside them to see what we can do to make sure that they're as safe as possible while also facilitating through traffic. And they're not what we're talking about with the neighborhood traffic management program. Whitaker's a collector that's in that kind of middle category where we still need to make sure that emergency services can get through as quickly as possible, that moving trucks and delivery vehicles can get in and out regularly. And we're a little bit limited on what we can do with those because a lot of people a lot of our collectors are in residential neighborhoods. Do we have a Lower Rattlesnake person here? If so, I bet they would be surprised to know that Poplar and Cherry are collectors in the running east to connect Van Buren to Greeno, because those are they're basically the bottom of the hill route. If there's a train at crossing at Madison, that is your way that you can get in and out of the Rattlesnake. And so River Road and Curtis in that neighborhood, those are collectors. So Whitaker, 23rd, High Parkway, these are collectors. They're streets that do need to carry traffic. The recent, I'm not even sure exactly what happened. I've heard a lot of hearsay, but whatever the incident was up at Rimmel Road and Whitaker last week has renewed the conversation about what we can do there and are the issues mitigatable. Again, the people like yourself, Ray, that live there and want to behave can find themselves going too fast. And then when you have high school kids or contractors that don't really have concern for their neighbors, you can go even faster. And so we're kind of revisiting with emergency services, what are our options on a street like that? We currently don't have a ton. And because access in a case of emergency has been prioritized over other things, but at some point we need to reduce the number of emergencies that people are responding to, and so we're starting that conversation again.
Yeah, that was a very interesting situation. I mean, a rollover car in the middle of a field is pretty impressive, Yeah.
It is. And I also heard concern that the responding officers may have been contributing to the perceptions of unsafety on Whitaker, the speeds at which the police were and the numbers of of responding officers.
And ambulances, yeah. I think
Yeah.
there was something like 9 to 12 vehicles roaring up Whitaker. Yeah, that's
Yeah.
probably true. Yeah. Second question was some of the side streets, I've forgotten now, which you probably would consider to be neighborhood streets. Some of them do not have sidewalks. They're quite wide. People do park in areas on them, like Jack was talking about, but not a lot. And there is some very high speed traffic that can happen at early hours of the morning within the neighborhood. And it's a little scary when school's back in session because it's also a school bus route. So is that something that could be put into this traffic safety request process and be assessed?
That's exactly the type of street that that can be assessed, and you know, we'll get the request. We'll talk to the people asking for help, a little bit more detail. You know, what are they seeing, and how can we collect data that best validates what they're seeing? Because you know, we're looking to, we want to see if there is a problem and try and solve it. We're not looking to avoid the situation, and so. But yeah, so we will then work with them, collect data, and then just rank the project. You know, we get requests. I probably have 2 or 3 dozen that I'm sitting on right now. Of those, half of them have elevated to the point of needing attention, and we can probably only do 4 to 5 a year. And so we're already, you know, the requests that come in now, we're looking at solving, you know, nothing on the ground until next year. At the earliest. But so get in the queue. If there are specific locations, either send me an email, have neighbors send me an email, go to that Engage Missoula page and try and fill out that form. Go to the city's website, let us know, and we will start collecting data when we can and start putting our heads together about what can work. But we really don't know. You know, we have a crash map of the entire city, but I don't know that we don't have the capacity right now to proactively address every local street. We need to rely on citizen complaints and requests for service.
Yep.
Great. We'll go to Bert.
Ben, years ago, well, pretty much every year for the past 15 years that I've been involved with the Prospect and Prospect Meadows neighborhoods, we've had desire to slow traffic coming down the hill, down Prospect Drive. And in the old process, you know, someone would have an interest and I'd say, well, here's the process, you know, and if you're not going to follow the process, don't waste your time. You know, if you can't start this and finish it, don't start it, because this is not easy. And no one who looked at it would start it. So they'd all complain. They'd complain year after year after year. And then when we finally, you know, did communicate with people, they said, well, you can't use a speed bump. You can't use this. You can't use that. And so is this a point? And we do have a school bus stop halfway down that hill. So, you know, it's, and we don't have a lot of dead kids, but the problem is you don't want one dead kid. And so what can I do to encourage someone to try again?
Yeah, good question, Bert. So your HOA is trying, and I actually owe, I'm drawing a blank. It might be Adam, but I owe someone a phone call. Basically, they had gotten in touch with me when I was out on paternity, and then they sent their reminder email when I was on vacation, and so I just I've missed them and owe a phone call and email to follow up. But Prospect is back on our radar through this program because we're trying to reduce the onus. One of the things working in the favor of that particular street is that we collected speeds and they are high enough to raise a little bit of concern. The thing that's not working in the favor there, and that we would probably want the HOA to to help us with a solution is that there's very, very little through traffic. Everyone who's part of the problem is a resident of the neighborhood, because there's a one way in, one way out sort of situation. And I'm not aware of a trailhead up there that might be drawing recreational traffic. So I think it's largely homeowners and their friends, residents and their friends that are part of the problem up there. Correct me if I'm wrong, please. But
Well, I don't think you're wrong, but, at least one of the homeowners associations has some money in the bank. And if you say this can be done for 10, we've discussed many solutions that would have cost $10,000. And, if the city can help us fine, if we could get a large project grant for 3,000 and we paid 7,000, whatever, so I don't want money to stop the investigation of what could be done. If it turns out that it's going to take $50,000 worth of reorienting the streets so we have people doing a slalom, that would be an issue. But something that could be done for $10,000 or $20,000, we need to be able to consider, can we swing it,
yeah, the money is not the barrier. I think it's a conversation about ongoing maintenance and who replaces something if it gets knocked out and that sort of thing, because I think that could be a good location for a sign that tells you how fast you're going. It really is it's a opened up straightaway after a curve. It has some of those contextual considerations that might make that a candidate. So that is, again, I just looked it up. It's Nate Thomas and Dave Luz who have been in touch. And
excellent. So that's the lower association. There's 2 associations.
Okay.
So just keep in mind that there's 2 pockets. If you need to start picking pockets, there's 2 pockets.
Bert, do you want to be CC'd on the email that I respond? That I write back to them? Okay, great. Thanks for the reminder. And yeah, that one, it's just been inopportune times that they've gotten in touch, but that is one fault of a small city, is that if you try and reach the guy when he's out.
Yeah, but we still save our spot in line, because we've been in line for a couple months now.
You did. Yep.
Awesome.
It's on a list. I just haven't gotten back to Nate and Dave yet.
And Ben, if you need Bert's email, I can send that over to you.
Oh, I believe I have it.
Okay. Awesome. So Leah.
Unmute. Okay. I hope this is a quick answer. Leah from the heart of Missoula. And we have like a bazillion problems, of course, but I'm curious to what extent the alleys play into your purview and your consideration in this, because we do in this neighborhood find that to be a thing. I hope it's like, don't go out of your way, and you can definitely email me later, but I'm curious about how alleys play into the street stuff.
Can you tell me more about alleys are a thing? What do you mean by that?
That people use the alleys instead of the street.
Really?
In ways. And so paving them maybe, or beautifying them. We've talked I'm so sorry. This shirt is like the most obnoxious shirt I could possibly wear for a Zoom. And I'm really sorry. Noted for next time. Safety issues.
I think mine might be doing more stuff than yours.
Safety issues for, nighttime and traffic. I think there's safety issues, and then there's people using alleys instead of the actual street to get around, traffic issues. So to what extent do you take alleys into consideration? And you can email me. It doesn't need to be a long.
We certainly look at them, and we would field any concern about that. We would look closely at it. An example of an alley that we typically only look at them if someone brings a specific concern to our attention, or if a redevelopment project is going to maybe change the way an alley is used. For example, when the Canby Tap House went in off of Higgins, we knew that their parking lot was going to access the alley kind of behind the gas station there that had historically been shut off to vehicle traffic. And so we had a lot, like, kind of lengthy look at, well, where do we really expect traffic to go, and where's the delivery truck if it pulls into the parking lot? How is the delivery truck going to get out, and what is the safest for the neighbors who have been accustomed to having that alley be closed, or at least very low volume? If that increases, what does that do? But so why don't you send me, if there's a specific location, send me, because most of our alleys are in rough enough shape that they would not be a good cut through. But
Yeah.
obviously there are places where the street is in rough shape too, or maybe the alley is the quickest path from point A to point B and becomes a shortcut. So yeah, let me know what you're seeing, and we can
I
look
will.
at that.
Absolutely. Yep.
Awesome. And Gretchen.
Hi, Ben. Thank you for your encyclopedic knowledge on this. I'm impressed how you're just like rattling off all these street names with like this deep familiarity with all parts of the city, places I don't even know. I put a poll out to the neighborhood, which I think you saw because you are also on the crew Facebook group. And so I'll just collect that and send that to you. And I guess I have two questions. One, is that sufficient to get stuff on the radar, or would I need to ask these individuals to formally report it through the website tools? And then
I
have
would
another
like
question. I'll
people to
let you
get
answer
in
that one
touch with me
first.
directly. I think that, oh, Gretchen, you froze. Are you there? Are you there? Oh,
I'm here. Yeah, the connection was bad for a second.
okay. I would prefer that people formally get in touch with me. The
Okay.
city's general policy is that we spy on Facebook pages, but we don't. We need more comment than just Facebook comments to take initiative on things, because, or else we'd be chasing all sorts of wild ideas.
Yeah.
And I haven't seen any updates lately, but there, a lot of what I saw in the initial responses were kind of general comments about infill in the neighborhood and what that might be doing to, like, the Phillips Scott intersection and
that came up
things like
several
that.
times.
And so that's a bigger picture question that we should probably just have Aaron and I come back to a crew meeting and Northside, maybe even the September Northside Westside leadership team meeting to talk more about the kind of the plans for Scott Street and what we might be able to do in a, short, medium, long-term situation.
Yeah, I think that would be good. That came up at a leadership team meeting too, that maybe we organize some kind of meeting that could be inclusive of the leadership team at the neighborhood council level and members of crew and other neighbors. I mean, the big themes that I saw was like sidewalk connectivity, feelings of safety or lack of safety, accessing some of the connectors, like Scott Street Bridge, the pedestrian bridge, Orange Street, and the underpass and stuff. And I know all of those are like really big ticket, expensive, in many cases, things to address, but like they're of a high priority in the neighborhood. And there was also some question and concern expressed about neighbors being aware that at Scott and Phillips, there had been some intentions expressed at the city level to put a traffic circle there. But like kind of a lack of understanding of like what did that concretely mean would be happening, or like kind of evidence of follow through on that intention. And sort of residents just sort of feeling like, wait, what's going on? Are we actually going to get it or not? And so if there are some short-term ways to address safety before it becomes feasible to actually do a traffic circle installation, I think that would be really well received by the neighborhood. Especially just giving the high profile of the issue there. So
yeah, that's a good reminder for us just to come back to the neighborhood. The short story to that is that we're continuing to look for funding and talk, as North Scott Street redevelops and those plans become more solid, we're then able to talk to the developer more about, well, what can you contribute to a project
Yeah.
like that? And so it is just a matter of taking time. We'll plan on coming back. Maybe it'll be Kalina and Kelly. Am I right in thinking that their next North Side West Side meeting is September?
The
I also,
wait,
while you guys are like administratively talking, can I catch up with Gretchen? Can you connect us? Because we're like Heart of Missoula, North Side, West Side. It's
Yeah.
really so many
Similar.
similar problems.
Yes,
I'd
yeah,
love
that would
to
be great.
able to-
yeah, I can connect you too. And then the next North Side West Side leadership team. Is that what you were asking, Ben?
Yes.
Yeah, and or general meeting.
So the next North Side West Side leadership team meeting is actually going to be in July 11th. But they are thinking of doing their general meeting in September, as well as Heart of Missoula is also thinking about that too. So
What day of the week? Or I guess I can look, but why don't we tentatively put? Shoot, I have another meeting on the 11th. Is it in the evening or is it during the day?
the evening.
Evening.
Okay, we will figure out some way to get to that meeting. Someone in our office can be at one of those at the July meeting.
And I'll follow up with you tomorrow, Ben.
Okay, great. Thanks.
Awesome. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Ben. I think this is a very warranted conversation, and it seems like I think everyone has specific issues or interests with the safety and transportation in their neighborhood. So I'm really glad you were able to join us.
Yeah, thanks. And I guess I'll just I'll leave the group with, safety is just the more we learn about the causes behind crashes, the more there are real benefits to our focus inward development strategy that, it costs the city and the taxpayers a lot less to have infill in our neighborhoods than to just continue unfettered growth west towards Frenchtown and south towards Lolo. Even though it seems like that is kind of happening also, it could be a lot worse. And long term, we just it's a lot better, but we recognize that means that existing neighborhoods are feeling impacts of that infill, and we're trying to mitigate them and trying to be responsive, but we need help to know exactly what the issues are that people are seeing. And because our resources are limited, we need to be able to then validate those issues and try and solve them incrementally and as best we can. It's not always going to be the prettiest. It's not going to be tomorrow, but we're getting a lot better at responding quicker to citizen concerns. And so again, keep talking about this with your friends and neighbors, and continue to let Kalina, myself, anyone that you happen to know at the city, let us know, and we will get these looked at and hopefully taken care of as soon as, if there is an issue that we can validate as soon as possible.
Awesome. Thank you. And then just mentioning, Gretchen asked Ben if he could send out a follow-up email with the links to all the pages that you put up. If you wanted to just send it to me, I can forward it on, or I can send you the list of emails for the community forum.
Yeah, and not every page because you showed a bunch, but like the ones that have the places for neighbors to report traffic concerns.
Yeah, so I just sent in the chat, I just dropped in the link to the Engage Missoula page where you can read through kind of all of the stuff that I shared. There is a way to add, I think maybe you need to be logged in or something, but there is a way to add comments directly onto the page on Engage Missoula. I was just moving my cursor as if I was still sharing my screen. I'm not. But the other is, it's on the city's webpage, and I'll drop that link in the chat in a minute.
Thank you.
Great. All right. Thank you so much. That's great. It's great to connect with that. And I think a couple of the other neighborhoods who aren't here, specifically Rose Park, I know at their last meeting was talking about specific streets with some issues. So I'll make sure to get these links to them as well so that they're aware.
Yeah. And, some people, the reason that we want to hear about what the issue is and then do more investigation, I'll use Rose Park as an example since they're not here. And we had someone talk about speeding and concerns at the Cottonwood Florence Rollins intersection
Yep, that's the one.
behind aging services, where these 3 streets come in at weird angles, and there's an apartment building right up on a curbside sidewalk, but there's no real curb there. And anyway, it's kind of a mess. And so we went and looked at it, and we said, there's no way that speeds are an issue here. There's no distance to get any sort of speed going. But where people are parked in relation to this weird intersection is causing all sorts of visibility concerns for people walking, people driving, and I'm sure it's a hazard. And so we went out there and we looked on site, and then we took an overhead map and we drew out, okay, if the sidewalks existed everywhere, and if if we thought that the streets, were at all made sense, where would they be? And we drew that out, and then we yellowed and then we said, where would we prevent parking if that was the case? And then we drew that out, and then we went out and we yellowed the curb in those places. And we've already gotten 2 thank you calls from neighbors for doing that. And so speeding was not actually the issue, we don't think. I mean, who knows? Maybe now that there's fewer cars there parked, maybe speeds will go up. But for now, it stopped the complaints. We've gotten some thank you calls. And that was one where, again, we heard speed, we didn't quite trust it. We went and looked, and we solved what we thought was the problem. So all of this, again, as we become a big city, we're still small enough that you can talk to us one-on-one, and we can try and figure out what's really going on at a very specific location and try and solve the issue.
That's wonderful. Thank you so much, Ben.
Yeah, thank you all. And Kalina, we'll follow up. And Leah, if you got Allie questions, and Gretchen, I didn't mean to say that the Facebook was not enough, by the way, just that you had mentioned, you had reached out to me saying, can I summarize, can I kind of collate all these and send them to you? And I will certainly, and I will then say, this is what we see as themes. This is my general response about sidewalks in the neighborhood or big picture projects. But again, I just think that we need to come back to a leadership team meeting and/or a crew meeting and just talk.
Yeah, I think that'd be productive. And I'm going to follow up with the channels that I solicited that feedback from and make sure everyone's aware of the ways to report specific concerns instead of generalized ones, and encourage folks to do that. But then if, I think just your general awareness of the themes that came up in those comments is useful, even if it's not considered directly actionable information. So I'll forward that to you.
Okay, much appreciated.
Yeah.
Well,
Great.
thank you all.
Gotta go.
Thanks, Ben.
Thanks, Ben. All right. So we'll move on with our agenda. I'm probably going to run through a couple of these because I don't really have too much to report anyways, but we'll move on to neighborhood project funds. We're finalizing the grant contracts this week, next week, all before June 30th. So those will start going here pretty soon. As for special events, nothing there right now. And then reports. The only quick report I wanted to give you all is that we're working on the budget as we're ending the fiscal year of 2022. And I mentioned this at our last meeting too, but I think it's good. Community Forum has a budget, and I think it'd be really great to utilize those funds in some different ways and creative ways. And especially now as we're moving towards hopefully being back in person here soon, I think there's a lot of opportunities ahead for us. So I think at the next time we meet, we'll maybe dive into the budget a little bit deeper, but we're running close to the end of our time here. So I think I'll move on unless anyone has any specific questions on the budget. Cool. Okay. So I think we can just go a quick roundabout for neighborhood council reports here. So I will start with hold on. Oh, actually we have Kathy here. So I'm actually going to back up a little bit because I think we have a quorum now. So if someone wanted to move to approve the minutes, we could now. Okay, I think I saw Leah's hand first. So Leah moves to approve. Is there a second?
Second,
Jennifer, wonderful. All in favor, say aye or raise your hand.
Aye.
aye.
Any against? All right, the motion passes. Thank you all so much. And then I will just start for the neighborhood council updates. I'm going to go to you, Kathy.
Gotta unmute myself. Let's see, we don't have a whole lot to report right now, other than our general meeting is the 28th at the 44 Ranch Park. And Mirtha, if you're still listening, we'd love to see you there.
I'm here.
Yay!
I'll be there.
Great. And probably the only other thing that's really happening right now is we put up our drive like your children lived here signs for the year. That's about it.
Awesome. Thank you, Kathy. And then we'll go to, gosh, I lost my list of who was here. Oh, here we go. Ray.
Okay, just quickly, we're having our general meeting on the 30th of this month. Nick Pata and Whitaker Park will be probably the major things with the updates and informing people about having gotten the grant for the work that needs to be done. And we'll be distributing our drive like your kids don't drive here. And I'd love that other one, which was what, the 20 is plenty. Wow, wouldn't that be great to have some of those around too? But yeah, and we're going to have at least one of our city council reps there. And that's, I think other than that, there'll be pizza, ice cream, sandwiches, and I think it turned out we couldn't get Otter Pops, which we wanted to have. Bummer. Anyway,
That's a
that's
bummer.
it. Yeah.
Awesome. Thanks, Ray. Bert.
So the biggest issue facing Grant Creek right now is a rezoning that is up for a vote Monday at City Council. It would allow a substantial number of 4-story apartments at the mouth of Grant Creek. The present zoning allows a fair number of 3-story apartments and a fair number of single dwelling unit residences. So that's what a lot of folks care about in Grant Creek right now. I will say that we're hoping the traffic calming process can work. And I just sent out an email that involves the key homeowner people in Ben and copied Kalina so that folks will know that there is a process in place that can work. Thank you.
Wonderful. Thanks, Bert. Leah.
Oh my gosh. Okay. It's so interesting to follow that up because I do feel it's so hard to Missoula. I feel like we're fielding a lot of the lots of story apartments in this neighborhood. And I think probably Gretchen could speak to that as well. And so I'm a little bit excited. And Bert, you and I haven't talked about it, but I'm excited to see those happening in a different neighborhood other than the heart of Missoula, north side, west side, because I feel like we filled a lot of that. But beyond that, and I'm welcome to, there's this huge vacant lot over here that we have no idea what's happening. I have no idea. And it's going to be a big old apartment building probably. But beyond that, the alleys, the safety is a concern for us, that we've heard from people sort of anecdotally. And that's why I asked about alleys. So I think that that's a concern for us. We are planning, I think I'm just gonna go ahead and say planning a general meeting in September for a block party that we're gonna do in conjunction with some of the businesses that are here. And there is someone emailed recently who I don't know, but there's also there's so much concern in this neighborhood. Honestly, it's like changing so much. I can't even keep up. But this is in Kiwanis, near Kiwanis Park. And they're gonna build some apartments there instead of the like single currently unoccupied, single family housing that is there, a 20-unit apartment building. So I don't know a lot about it, but it's a major concern for the neighbors. And it's something that's happening in our neighborhood. There's so much development. It's hard to keep track of it all. And it's hard to know what is beneficial to Missoula and what is detrimental. So again, I just encourage people to be involved in the neighborhood. If you know anyone who lives here and wants to be involved in the neighborhood, because there is so much going on and it's a lot of large apartments. And so if anyone has any ideas, I certainly don't. Parking, okay, let's not even talk about parking. Please do. And that's it. That's all I got.
Thanks, Leah.
Thanks, Kalina.
By the way, I really like your shirt, so I think it's great. It seems
Is it like reading crazy to you?
No,
I don't
it's
know.
great.
It's okay. Thank you.
Yeah. All right. Jack.
Tuesday night, we had a leadership meeting to talk about our upcoming general meeting in August at Maloney Ranch Park. We also have been struggling with getting the quorum, even though we're supposed to have 5 to 7. Seems like we only end up with about 3 people at our leadership meeting. And so we had some discussion about that. And then with our general meeting in August, we're looking at having Mountain Line Bus come and speak to us about proposals for buses and routes in the Miller Creek area, as well as talk about lower Miller Creek rezoning. There's a proposal, it's for putting some sidewalks and boulevards along the lower Miller Creek Road out to Jeanette Rankin School to help with the safety of children walking and biking to school. And then we're looking at updating our bylaws. And that's it for Miller Creek. Thank you.
Great. Thank you, Jack. We'll go to Carol.
Hi. The Moose Caledonian South 39th Street leadership teams met last night. Last night was mostly to discuss details about our upcoming general meeting, which is a week from last night on June 29th. We're going to have one of the developers. There are 2 developments in the neighborhood that are just starting out. One of them is the 100-acre parcel that used to be the Craighead property, and they've already started work on that. And those developers are going to come and give a presentation to everybody, and they're awfully anxious to see what the plans are. And then we just learned that another 50 acres, about 50 acres of former farmland on the other side of Hillview Avenue is going to be developed too. And we saw the plans for that recently. And then we're going to have a couple of council members there and some ice cream and that should, and the code compliance officer, Charmel, is going to give us a presentation. And then we had another meeting this month back on June 8th, which was mostly a discussion about bylaws and trying to get those straightened out. We thought having them finished, we would be able to vote on them at the general meeting, but apparently it's not time to vote on any of them yet. So we won't. So thank you. That's it.
Thanks, Carol. Gretchen.
Yes, hi. And I'm multitasking, so forgive me if there's a little background noise. For North Side, West Side, I guess we're kind of getting back into a groove of having meetings. We had some, the pandemic was hard for everyone, and we kind of fell by the wayside for a little bit. So we're kind of getting back in the groove and maybe looking for new members. We had some previous members that may no longer be participating. We need to evaluate that. So we're excited to have a general meeting on the books because that might be an opportunity to engage some new folks. We're planning on doing the general meeting in September, like was mentioned earlier in the meeting, and we'll have food and ice cream there. So we're hoping we can get a good turnout. And until then, our leadership team meetings will be largely focused on making sure we do a successful job with making that happen. Then additionally, there was a neighborhood grant application from our neighborhood to do some street beautification along with one of the quick build circles that Ben Weiss described, which will be happening on the north side. So we got some funds to do a mural painting and a planter there. And then we're also going to be doing a street painting mural project without a quick build, sort of as another experiment on the west side. So we're excited to engage neighbors in those projects as well. And traffic and development continues to be a concern in our neighborhood. As you heard earlier, the west side, or excuse me, West Broadway, there was a West Broadway, what is it? I'm losing my words.
The master plan?
Thank you, Kalina. The West Broadway master plan for the space between the river and Broadway, Russell and California Street wrapped up at the end of last year. And there's a lot of interest in the neighborhood and what will be happening with the Sleepy Inn site as that master planning process sort of begins to take shape actually on the ground. So that's something we're kind of watching and looking to continue to have neighbors have an opportunity to have voice in what happens with that project or parcel in the future. So I think that's it. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Gretchen, and thank you for joining us tonight. All right, then we're going to go to Jennifer.
I have two little granddaughters with me tonight, so I have to apologize for some interruptions. They're getting a little antsy. The University District is exploring having a general meeting in the fall, perhaps to welcome students. We're looking forward to how the neighborhood will receive the new pickleball courts that we got thanks to Kalina's grant program. We're exploring consequences of the university's request for changes in resident parking permits. The university wants to create more access for student parking, which really troubles some residents. We're investigating some grant funding for adult exercise equipment in Bonner Park. We have some concerns about the upkeep of Jeanette Rankin Park, are exploring high quality welcome signage to the University of Montana area. And of course, as always, we're concerned about traffic safety on Arthur near the university. Thank you, Kalina.
Yes, thank you. Okay, so we've gone through our neighborhoods, and so I'll just kind of give the floor to Mirta, who's subbing in for Gwen today, to let us know what's happening on City Council's sites.
Thank you. Kalina,
I think I know most of you, but if you don't know me, Mirta Becerra, I represent Ward 2 on City Council, and I'm stepping in for Gwen Jones. I asked Gwen, what should I update the forum on? And she said, just tell them what we're working on. And I said, I think the meeting ends at 7:30, not midnight. So I will do my best to give you a recap. But very importantly, I want to know from Kathy if our meeting is going to have ice cream, because I only go if there's ice cream. All the other
Oh,
neighborhood meetings are having ice cream.
you know,
Um,
I'm not too sure because I wasn't the one in charge of the food and stuff.
Okay.
There's,
But
there's
maybe
food.
I can promise you ice cream anyway.
I also,
I might have to
while you
speak
were,
it to you, but
okay, while you were all updating, I took notes and you can't see them, but development seems to be the number one theme across the entire community. Linda Vista, Hillview, Kiwanis, Grant Creek, Mullen Road, Sleepy Inn, Broadway for the west side. So, you know, I think we're all feeling the pressure of development in different ways across the city. I wanted to let Leah, oh, she left. Oh, she's here. That the Kiwanis apartments that you were talking about, you can find more information about that under the park board's agenda link. That's where they received all the information about that proposal and how they voted on it. So if you want to get more information, that would be a good place to find more resource. And before I forget, just this yesterday, excuse me, in Public Works, we approved a contract between the mayor to receive some grant funding for Patty Creek restoration. So for the Patty Creek Farview, it's Ward 4. There's going to be some effort to involve the community and the neighbors in the restoration of Patty Creek. So I just wanted you to know that you might be receiving more information about it from our city water and city water department. So I'll try to be super brief, but I just wanted to share with you the number one thing that's occupying a lot of council time and energy is all the development that is happening across the city. And this is one of our ways to deal with the housing shortages that we are seeing. We hope that we can have our city code work wrap up before too much more development actually happens, so that we can see that development be balanced with retaining character of our neighborhoods and ensuring that we have the right infrastructure in place, or at least planned for. So that's a big effort. In terms of transportation right now, the streets division is busy. I'm sure you've seen a lot of work everywhere. This is the time to get all of that done, to get our street network in better shape. So you might see some detour signs and some delays across the city. We're starting our budget process. Council will be hearing from all departments, their needs and the budget that they need for operations. And then in August, when we receive the evaluations from the State Department, Department of Revenue, we can finalize and adopt the budget for fiscal year 2023. There will be ample time for public engagement. We'll work with all of our communications departments to ensure that we have plenty of opportunities and venues for the public to engage and give us your feedback. Last week, the mayor released the strategic plan for the city and the 2023 key priorities. These are going to be the priorities that will inform council in terms of how to balance the budget and ensure that we continue to meet the goals and the priorities that we hear from our constituents. I'll just give you a brief highlight of this, but all this information is available online. So if you want to look for some specific information related to your neighborhood, please do go to Engage Missoula, or I'm happy to send the link directly to this so that you can all have it. But here's just a few things that are top of mind and that they are, part of that, the key priorities for 2023. Achieving organizational excellence. So that means develop a plan that works to recruit and retain staff. Just like anywhere else in the city, the city has been struggling to hire new staff and retain staff. So we're gonna work and try to get creative on how to attract motivated staff to move to Missoula and to be able to stay in Missoula. The city is gonna take formal steps to ensure the long-term financial sustainability of the city's general fund. As you know, the main source of revenue for the city is property taxes. This is unsustainable, so I think it's time for us to think about how else we can use those very precious dollars that come to us every year. Kathy, do you have a question, or should I keep going and then take question? Up to you.
I'm sorry, I was muted. Keep going. This is just something I want to say at the end before we quit.
Okay. In terms of housing, the city will continue with its approach to purchase land and partner with private sector on innovative new development models. We have done that for the Villaggio, for Trinity. These are the big partnerships that we have created with the private sector to provide affordable, truly affordable housing. We're working to position the Sleepy Inn for redevelopment, either through a private development or a public-private partnership. Plan for development of the Payne block. So that's the former library site. I think there's some ideas floating around. We haven't really gotten to really sink our teeth into what that means. What are the priorities? What are the services that need to be provided? But it's time for us to get going with that. So that's a priority for this coming fiscal year. Complete the first phase of the comprehensive code reform project, which includes the creation and adoption of a uniform development ordinance. So looking at our zoning regulations, subdivision regulations, code regulations and requirements. And the idea is to have all of that under one comprehensive document that can serve as a consistent document for developers and for staff to review developments in the future. In terms of community safety and wellness, the city plans to expand the crisis intervention team program to increase capacity for alternative response for individuals in crisis. Seek increase and permanent funding for critical services such as the mobile support team, homeless navigation center, emergency winter shelter, and crisis intervention training. In terms of the built and natural environment, continue investing in infrastructure in the Mullen Road area. Invest in infrastructure planning and design development to support development in the North Reserve Scott Street Urban Renewal District. Complete the Rattlesnake Dam Restoration Project. and complete the Waterworks Hills trailhead and invest in other universal access trail improvements. Some other projects that are priority: complete West Side Park and begin design work on other West Side and North Side parks. Address failing infrastructure such as roofs, restrooms, and sport courts. That's part of the Parks Department's priorities. Complete solar installation at the wastewater resource recovery facility. And that's to offset the demand for more than 20% of the main electrical feed that goes into the operations of the plant. So I just went really quickly over some of the highlights, if you will, of the strategies for 2023, but there's a lot more. And so if you're looking for something in particular, or you want to know how the priorities affect your specific neighborhood, I would encourage you to look at that document. It will be what we use to guide decisions on the budget starting now in August. So with that, if you have any questions, I'm happy to take some.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Mirta. Kathy, did you have a question for Mirta or just something to say for announcements?
Just an announcement.
Okay.
Basically.
So any questions? All right. Well, okay, Kathy, I guess we can go. Thank you so much, Mirta, for giving that update.
You're welcome.
Okay, so the mountain line, as some of you may realize, are going to expand its services July 10th. I am absolutely thrilled that we're going to have Sunday service, Saturday service, and expanded weekday hours, even on the number 11 bus, which is the one I ride, which I've been waiting for that for 20 years to be able to ride anytime at my convenience on the number 11. Yeah, I'm just so thrilled. And if somebody would pass that along to Mountain Line, and Mirta, the city council, I think, had something to do with that, with throwing a little bit of money in. Man, thank you so much. That's all.
Kathy, what date did you say it begins?
July 10th.
July 10th. And it's all on Mullen Road?
Oh, no. All the bus routes are getting expanded.
Oh, okay. Thank you.
Yeah, it's really cool. I'm so excited.
That is a really exciting expansion, much needed too. So, all right. Any other announcements? Wonderful. The last thing I'll say is we will not be having a community forum in July. So we'll pick back up in August. I think I have a couple months planned out for presentations. So I'm hoping I can send that out as like a bulk notice to you all. Thank you all so much for staying with us a little after 7:30. I really appreciate it. And I hope you all have a really great summer. But do I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Okay, do I have a second? Okay, Kathy, all in favor? Let's get out of here.
Aye.
All right, thank you all so much. Have a great rest of your night.
Good night. Good night.